That was good, wasn't it? Christmas is done and dusted. The darts is back on the telly. Now, we've done round 1 and 2. They're in the can. We're into the last 32 stage. But let's have a little reminder, let's have a little refresher of everything that's happened so far. First of all, we have lost 11 more tour card holders, most notably Jose de Sousa, the Premier League runner-up, and also the winner of the Grand Slam of Darts. Next one in line to potentially lose a card, Mario van den Boogaard. He would only lose one, though, should Justin Hood win his next game, or anybody else win two, such as Wesley Plaisir would need to reach the quarterfinals. There are players who could get tour cards off the back of the World Championships. Andreas Harrison would need to reach the quarterfinals, as would Charlie Manby and Arno Merck. Now, if they was to get in the top 64, they would get a tour card and they would get a 1-year tour card. So anyone in the top 64 gets a 1, not 2. Even though technically it would be 2, because the money they win this year wouldn't be defended till 2 years World Championships, so they'd get a whole year on the tour, which would top them up and keep them in the top 64 anyway. Then they'd get another year on tour, where at the end of that year they would be defending whatever prize money they get from this year's tournament. But that only comes into play if they reach the quarterfinal stage. We have seen this happen before. What's really interesting to note is, of the last 32, 17 of the world's top 32 have been eliminated, only 15 players left. However, that does include the big favourites. It does include Luke Littler, the favourite to defend his World Championship crown, Luke Humphries, who is on course for a final once again against the great man. Jan van Veen, the only player who's been able to beat the Lukes throughout 2025 on a consistent basis, and Josh Rock, who's had an exceptional year. But you can't discount the form of what we've seen from the likes of Michael van Gerwen and Gary Anderson, as we have seen some players really roll it back. Callan Rids as well, once again producing the goods at the World Darts Championship. But when we look at that big performance, when we look for the big averages, the man at the very top of that list is Jan van Veen. He did that against Alan Suter in a game he could quite easily have gone 2-0 down in, averaged 108.28, one of just 9 games to include an average over 100. The debutants this year have been very impressive, haven't they? Andreas Harrison, one of the best players without a tour card, has shown why. He took out Ross Smith, the first big seed to fall in the tournament in the opening round, and he backed that up with a win against Sakai. He is still going and could be quite dangerous. Charlie Manby, a guy who had a lot of eyes on him before the dart was thrown in this tournament. A player people expected a lot from him. He averaged 130 earlier in the year and a winner on the Super Series. He's rolling in cash right now. He's gone through against Cameron Mendes and Adam Savada Unana. Could go even further. And Arno Merck opened the show, played Kim Hybrex, beat him, beat Peter Wright. He's got his hands full with Michael van Gerwen next, but has looked mightily impressive. Certainly one we'll keep an eye on at Q School. And Justin Hood has been too good. He's been exceptional. When Justin Hood first came into the Super Series, you didn't think he would be the player he is right now. 99 and 103 average in victories over Nick Kenny, and also taking out the highest ranked player in the tournament so far, Danny Noppert, the world number 6, has gone. Does that affect his Premier League chances? We've also seen James Wade go out. We've also seen Gerwyn Price go out. People are on the shortlist and in the discussion in regards to the Premier League positions. I think Gerwyn Price is still in. Danny Noppert, though, and James Wade, I think, are a little bit more questionable. I think they may have just written their way out of the Premier League conversation. Jan van Veen, put him in now. The biggest prize fund ever of £1 million requires the biggest finishers ever, the 170. We've had loads. We've had 9 so far. Rob Cross, Gabriel Clements, Brendan Dolan, Van Dijvenbode, Christopher Tysky, Nathan Aspinall, Joe Cullen, James Wade, and there he is again, Jan van Veen, all reeling it in. Well, that was a bit controversial, wasn't it? Why not? Everyone else is being controversial. Cameron Menzies smacked the table. Fallon Sherrick shook it afterwards, which, by the way, no issue there. Cameron would have found that funny, I'm sure. Joe Cullen calling Mensah-Suljovic a cheat. He swore on TV as well, didn't he? Dom Taylor been banned from the tournament due to failing the drugs test, giving Johnny Clayton a bye through to the next round. Ricky Evans with the underarm dart, which was a little bit overarm, but it wasn't thrown in an overarm and deliberate fashion. That is the rule. Overarm and deliberate fashion. That was neither. More of a side swipe rather than overarm and deliberate fashion. How about shocks? Surprises? These will be different for different people. Very interested to know what you think down in the comments section for shocks and surprises. I'm picking 2. Gerwyn Price losing to Wesley Plaisier. Wesley Plaisier, 2-time World Masters, played at the World Championship before, Pro Tour winner. It's not the world's biggest surprise, but the form that Gerwyn Price is in makes it such a huge shock. That for me goes down as number 2, but the biggest surprise of them all, the 2024 World Grand Prix winner, Mike Dedeker, going out to David Munya, the qualifier from Kenya, and not only going out to him the way that he did after being a couple of sets ahead. I think that's probably why these two are on there sort of neck and neck. One, because of the way that Mike Dedeker lost it, but the other one, Gerwyn Price didn't just lose, he got battered 3-0 by Wesley Plaisier. Let me know in the comments section though, what for you has been the biggest surprise of the World Championship? I'll give you 3. You can have 3, but you've got to number them. No surprise though from this point that Luke Littler is now the odds-on favourite to go and win this. The format extends. Everything we've seen so far is first to 3 sets. From the second round, first to 3 sets. Third round, we now go up, first to 4, and it will stay that way as well for the last 16. Which means you've got to be better than Luke Littler for longer. And I think there's only 2 people on the planet who can do that. Luke Humphries and Jan van Veen. And they are the second and the third favourite. No shock to see Josh Rock, 4th favourite, who now also thinks in the Premier League. Going back as well to 2024 World Darts Championship, because players defending big money, quarterfinals onwards. Chris Dobey defending £50,000 from a couple of years ago. He's gone out with just £25,000 on his order of merit. Brendan Dolan going out at the same round. He's going out at the hands to Brian Searle. £25,000 coming off of his order of merit. Michael Van Gerwen and Rob Cross still in the tournament. Dave Chisnell also will be losing ranking money. Scott Williams, though, is the player that's going to suffer the most. He's gone out in the second round phase. £25,000 coming off of him. £100,000 for reaching the semi-final stage a couple of years ago, which would have been the big story had it not been for Luke Littler. But 75 grand coming off of there. Rob Cross needs to keep winning. He's in the last 32 stage. He's defending some of his £100,000 already. But his position in the top 32 could have looked in a little bit of danger. Instead, he's battling himself in there and keeping himself in contention. He's got his hands full, though, in round number 3. As far as my dark horse prediction, he's still in and swinging. My dark horse for the tournament was Ryan Searle. I think he gets through potentially here to the semi-final stage. I'm sticking with that one. However, when it comes to the winner, surely going to be Littler, isn't it? Let me know your semi-final predictions now we're down into the last 32 down below, and let's watch what has been a crazy World Championship unravel. It's been so unpredictable, but it could end up being with a predictable outcome. Catch you soon.